Y bueno, lo que me parece interesante y muy necesario de asegurar es que existe una ligación muy fuerte entre la dificultad de la reproducción del capital en el centro hegemónico y lo que vemos en los periódicos, en las televisiones, ¿no? Y yo creo que nos quedamos un poco como bestializados diante de todo eso y no sabemos lo que podemos hacer y yo creo verdaderamente que caminamos para una catástrofe. Yo no puedo decir cuándo, es evidente, pero la cuestión de la agua, el compañero ha hablado a poco en su intervención. Yo sé que la China y el Japón, por ejemplo, han hecho contrato con el gobierno brasileño para comprar la agua de Amazonia. Me parece fantástico que lleguemos a un punto como este y ahora hablemos de choque de civilización, Islam, católicos, crentes, protestantes. Bueno, todo eso es muy, muy, muy importante, ¿eh? No vamos a hacer el mínimo de todo eso, pero ¿cuál es el centro de la cuestión? Estamos enfrente de una situación que va a nos llevar a la catástrofe, esto es seguro. Y bueno, yo he ponido una cuestión para el compañero, el colega, yo no sé tu nombre, que ha dicho que el problema, de una manera muy pesimista, perdóname si yo te digo esto de una manera directa también, pero muy pesimista, ha dicho, el problema es que no colocamos la cuestión ayer, entonces parece muy tarde para poner esta cuestión. Bueno, entonces, ¿por qué estamos discutiendo esto? Queremos comprender y la historia es como la filosofía. Todos los historiadores del pasado se han preocupado en interpretar el mundo de muchas maneras, pero hoy, en la crisis de paradigma, tenemos que hacer una historia que quiera dar una contribución para que hagamos algo en esta situación. Bueno, si nadie quiere hablar, yo quería decir una cosa. Bueno, perdone.
Merci. Bueno, un instant. La parole est d'abord au professeur KOVALIO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would limit myself to a few remarks in English. The obsession with Huntington is an expression or part of the overall obsession with the United States as being dominant. The United States is so culturally dominant that you can go in Washington and live a year, 2, 3 years, about 2, 3 blocks from the White House and not have to use English 1 day, 1 minute. I think I would move there in order to, speed up my process of learning Spanish, of course, fluently. The United States has lost 2.5 million jobs in the last 2 years, which have gone to China. We keep talking about ideas, philosophizing about things without ever touching even a little bit on the real problem, and that is the situation of the Muslim, particularly the Muslim core in the immediate Middle East. That is the problem. It has nothing to do with imperialism of any kind. Since 1945, only the Soviet Union and Arab states like Egypt, Iraq, Libya have engaged in imperialism. There is no imperialism since 1945 at all, certainly not so-called Western-style imperialism. Huntington, why concentrate on him so much? He was talking about China and Islam working together in his so-called West against the West, which is absolute nonsense, of course. In Canada, immediately after 9/11, 2 days under the impact of the great, of course, always great, Chomsky, this is a statement, a very small part of a statement that the head of women's studies at the University of British Columbia, one of the best of our universities, made, quote, "There will be no emancipation of women anywhere on this planet until the Western domination of this planet is ended. This new fight against terrorism that is being launched is a very old fight of the West against the rest." Now, if I may get just another minute or two, I would like to really look at the problem that really is or should be at the center of our attention. Unlike India, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, even Malaysia, which have dealt very creatively, in their own benefit that is, with colonialism, with the vestiges of colonialism. Since 1920-25, after First World War, the main problem that Muslim nations in the Middle East have had is to deal with change. That is the problem. It has absolutely nothing to do with Western colonialism in the Middle East, the only vestige of which is anti-Semitism, absolutely nothing else. So it is an internal problem that only Muslim peoples under good leaders will be able to solve. The only positive example in that area is Turkey. How Turkey became a democratic, in its own ways, of course. Every democracy is sui generis, totally special, totally separate, only because of the fact that they got the mujaddid. In other words, a very powerful, central, effective leader under whose leadership it became a democracy, a Turkish democracy, which is as good as anybody else's with its challenges and so on. Nobody else in the Islamic core was able, or shall I say fortunate enough, to get a similar leader. That is the problem. It's an internal Muslim problem. It's not a war or clash of civilization or anything like that. Thank you.
2 minutes. Je vais donner la parole au professeur KUECKER qui l'a demandé, et puis à M. Kunterfrank.
I think the focus on Huntington illustrates a point that I was trying to make in my argument, that our understandings of what the world is about right now have failed us almost completely. That we have this obsession, that we have this discussion about Huntington. Yes, it is important, but what discussions are we not having because we're talking about Huntington? Especially when so many of us are in agreement that those ideas presented by Huntington are wrong. We focus our time talking about the wrong ideas as against talking about new ideas. It's an indication of the crises that we live in right now. Before coming to this conference, I spent 10 days in Beijing, China. Huntington has no clue about China. Is this the 19th century? Absolutely not. 21st century could not be more different than the reality of the 19th century. Capitalism, in its highest stage right now, is creating a new reality distinct from past epochs. It's pure and simple. Indicators, human indicators, the level of human suffering, the scale, the billions of people on the face of the earth suffering, right, creates an entirely new reality. Finally, the major distinction between now and the 19th century is the transnationalization of the global system. Transnational corporations, transnational institutions,